Hi guys, welcome to part one of this book review, Dream Count by Chimamanda. I really enjoyed this book and that was why I wanted to do a book review. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from the life of these four different women, and in this part one, we're going to be exploring the character of Chiamaka and the lessons we can learn from her life. I'll be sharing 5 lessons we can learn from the life of Chiamaka. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First character that was introduced to us in this book, her name is Chiamaka and her friends call her Chia. Chiamaka is a woman in her late 40s. She's single, she's never been married. She came from a wealthy family and she's a travel writer. In chapter 1, we were introduced to Chiamaka, where at the peak of lockdown, she's alone in her apartment and she's just reflecting on her life and the choices she has made in her life so far. I love how Chimamanda introduced Chiamaka to us. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Chapter 1, Chiamaka. I have always longed to be known, truly known by another human. Sometimes we live for years with yearnings that we cannot name, until a crack appears in the sky and widens and reveals us to ourselves, as the pandemic did. Because it was during lockdown that I began to sift through my life and give names to things long unnamed. Profound. When I read the first paragraph, I was like, what does it mean to be truly known by another human being? And can we even be truly known by another human being? Do we even truly know ourselves? Because sometimes we can surprise ourselves with the things that we do. So how do you expect someone else to truly or fully know you, even when you don't fully know yourself? Is it even realistic to put that kind of expectation on someone else to fully know you? Yeah, that was just my thoughts on the very first paragraph of this book. And I think Chiamaka represents those women that believe in this gushing love story. She wanted to be deeply loved and spend the rest of her life with someone who her soul connects with, But the problem is she did not clearly define what that would look like. And that takes me to lesson 1, which I'll be talking about now. Sisters, clearly define your goals or expectations. Oftentimes we have these vague expectations or goals that even us, we don't really know what it means, such that even when we achieve it, we are not aware that we actually achieved it because we did not clearly define it. And that was the case with Chiamaka. She really wanted this gushing love. But what that gushing love would look like when it happens, she did not know. She has never clearly named or defined what gushing love would look like. So if, for instance, as a lady, you said, oh, I want a man that loves me or a man that respects me, what does love look like for you? For someone, love would be that if he supports my dreams, that's enough. I feel loved. For another person, it would be he has to buy me flowers. He has to look at me every morning and tell me that I'm the best thing that happened to him, even if I'm not. So the question is, what does love mean to you? How do you receive love or respect? That way, when that love comes, you'll be able to identify it, and not just even with relationships, like anything at all you're doing, whether it's your financial goals or your career goals, you need to clearly define what success looks like, so that when it actually happens, you would be happy and say, oh, yes, I've achieved my goal. Oftentimes we find ourselves yearning for more and more and more of things that we haven't clearly defined. And we forget to live in the moment. We spend the rest of our lives keep chasing goals that never ends. Even if you say, I want to be rich, how rich? How much money is enough? How much is it that if you have, you will say, oh, I'm now rich, I can relax now. Otherwise, you will keep pursuing wealth, you will keep striving for more. When you attain a certain level, you want to go higher, and you will just never be satisfied. You will never live a satisfied life. You would always be wanting more and more, and you would never live in the moment. That is for lesson 1. I think Chia failed to really define what she wanted in a man. That was why she missed out on some really good men that she would have, ended up with, and wasted time with a terrible man. That takes us to lesson number 2, the dangers of losing oneself in a relationship. One of the men she was in a relationship with the longest, whom she later regretted ever loving, was Daniel. Daniel is the kind of man that you would call a narcissist. Daniel never loved Chiamaka. He never treated her well. He was just taking and taking from her and gave her absolutely nothing, whether financially financially or emotionally. Like, she had no reason to be in that relationship, but that was the relationship she was in the longest. I think the relationship lasted for 2.5 years or thereabouts. I'm hoping that women who are in the kind of relationship Chiamaka was with Daniel would read a book like this, and the spell will like break from their head. It will be like calling to tell them that you've been a fool for so long, you need to come out from that. Chiamaka loved Daniel so much, and Daniel knew that she loved him so much and took that for granted. He never poured into her. He was always talking down on her. Even if they go out, right, Chiamaka is the one that's always paying for things. He would be delaying to remove his wallet, and Chiamaka will end up paying for everything. He was just so mean to her. He would make jest of her in front of his friends, and Chiamaka was just taking all this in, making excuses for him, protecting him from her friends and family, shrinking herself to make him feel okay. And I think most women must have had an experience whereby you're in a relationship where everyone around you can just tell that this relationship is bad for you, like you shouldn't be there, but you will still stay there and be making excuses for the man. Oh, I made him beat me. He wouldn't have done that if I did not talk to him that way. Yes, I hope that this book will be like an eye-opener for any woman in that kind of relationship to break free, because it's so unhealthy. You end up losing yourself. Chiamaka was a shadow of herself around this guy. Everything she wanted to do was to please him, but he was never there for her when she needed him. He was always taking and taking. It was just a really terrible and one-sided relationship. However, eventually, the spell broke. I like the way Chimamanda said it. And so I'm just going to quickly give us a backstory of how the breakup finally happened. So they went for a dinner with a colleague of Daniel. She ordered for, I've forgotten the name of the drink she ordered for. Yeah, it's an alcoholic drink anyway. And he wasn't happy that she ordered for that kind of drink in that setting. For some weird reason, he was not happy that she ordered that drink. Well, according to him, it wasn't appropriate or something like that. And then when they got home and he confronted her about it, why would she order that drink? And she's like, what is wrong with ordering that drink? They went back and forth. They had some few conversation or arguments regarding that. And then he locked the door to their room, such that she slept at the sitting room just because she ordered a particular kind of drink. So aside from the fact that he never really loved her, he was really a mean person, right? Even if you don't like someone, and that's why people would always say, stay with a kind person. Because someone who is kind, even if they don't love you, they won't do certain things to you, you know. The following morning, she booked her flight, packed her luggages, and she left. She texted her cousin Omelogo to say that she has broken up with Daniel. Then she left the city back to her own city. Like, she even left her city to go and live with him when he moved it to another city because he got the kind of job he wants. She was literally living her life for him. She was begging for his love. I think Chiamaka has what we call anxious avoidance attachment. You know, when a woman falls in love with men who are emotionally unavailable, and then the ones that love her, she doesn't really find them attractive. I think that's what Chiamaka has. The two men she deeply loved and was hoping something was going to happen with were emotionally unavailable. The other one was married, and yes, he was nice to her and all that, but he couldn't be with her. You know, he kept telling her that, oh, he's going to leave his wife, but he never left his wife. And it was just really messy. She actually met other good men like Chuka. Chuka was very straightforward. He was a proper gentleman. He wasn't messing around. Told her that he wanted to get married to her, and they dated for a while. Like, because she wasn't familiar with that kind of stability, she saw it as that their love lacked the passion and all those things. And that is a trauma response, which takes me to lesson number 3. Ladies, we need to be self-aware. Some of us are dealing with traumas that we are not even aware that we have those traumas. It shows itself in the choices we make, the kind of people we fall in love with, or the kind of people we choose to spend the rest of our life with. So for Chiamaka, I think she has this anxious avoidance attachment pattern whereby she's used to men who are emotionally unavailable, who would starve her of attention, and then she will see it as it's passionate love. As a woman, once in a while, you can just sit quietly alone and just reflect on your life, reflect on the choices you're making, and, you know, get curious with yourself and ask yourself, why is it that I'm always in relationship whereby these men are beating me? Like, what is it about me that attracts those kind of men? You know, you cannot change someone else's behavior. The only person you can change is yourself. The only person you have influence over is yourself. So you need to sit down and ask yourself, why am I always in relationship with this kind of men? Why am I attracting this kind of men? How am I enabling these men to treat me this way? There's always a role you can play in your reality. You just need to take time and, you know, self-reflect. And that's the only way you can grow and have a better life. If you are always seeing yourself as a victim and you don't sit down to recognize that you have a role to play in any situation you find yourself, you will keep seeing yourself as a victim and nothing will change, you know. But if you look at it and say, why do I allow these things to happen? Why do I allow this kind of behaviors to happen? You know. So take for instance, Chiamaka, for instance, anytime she goes out with Daniel, he would, and it's time to pay for something, he would be delaying to pay, and then she will end up paying for those things. In that instance, she is enabling that kind of behavior. If having the first time, second, and third time, you don't need them to tell you that, okay, this is a pattern, this is manipulation, this is a behavior. Next time, if he's delaying to bring out his wallet, you too, don't pay, delay. And you guys will be looking at yourself until he will finally pay for it. Men don't treat all women the same. That's the truth. The same guy that you're dating that treated you a certain way, if he's with another woman who knows how to establish boundaries, who knows how to communicate how she wants to be treated, guess what? He's going to treat her differently. You cannot change other people's behavior, but you can change your own behavior. There is something you can do to break the pattern. Number 4, I don't have much time. I'm just going to rush through the last 2 lessons. The lesson I would like to share with us is, please stop people pleasing. Chiamaka was such a people pleaser. Even if she's in a gathering with friends, she takes the responsibility to make everyone feel comfortable. She doesn't let there be no awkward silence. As women, we are already socialized to be people pleasers by nature. Don't talk with such harsh tone. It's not good for a lady to talk that way. Oh, you have to always be to apologize. You know, men have ego. All those kind of things. We're already socialized to be people pleasers. That's just the truth. Now, when on your own, you now have people pleasing as your nature, right there, men will finish you. Even your fellow women will take advantage of you. It's okay to say no without giving an explanation. No is a full sentence. It doesn't need any more explanation. Even me, I'm seriously struggling with this. If you are a kind person, you will have some elements of people pleasing in you. That's just the truth. So most of us, we have people pleasing in us. But when it gets to the point that you are always putting yourself last, shrinking yourself just to make others feel comfortable, you're always betraying yourself and putting yourself last, it becomes very unhealthy. She mistook self-sabotage for humility, and that was why Daniel kept taking and taking from her. And finally, the last point, one good lesson that we can learn from the life of Chiamaka is that she was never desperate for marriage. When I say lessons and insights, I'm not just talking all about negative. You know, Chiamaka had lots of good things we can learn from her. She was a good friend, she was reliable, she was very kind, and I also liked that she was never desperate for marriage. Even though she was, I think, in her early 40s when she met Chuka, still, you might, an average woman in her shoe would be like, even if that passionate love is not there, let me just settle for this one at 40 something. Yay! Even her mom was happy, everyone was happy, they were so sure that this is it. But because she did not have that passionate, gushing love that she was looking for with Chuka, she did not accept his proposal for marriage. I really commend that with her. And that was why, even in the face of all these things that she had to go through, she still enjoyed her life. If that she was someone that was like desperate for marriage and allowed the societal pressure to add to all the whole things that she's going through, she would have really lived a miserable life. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this book review. Watch out for part 2. If you're watching this video when part 2 is already out, you would see it on your screen right now. In part 2, we'll explore the next character that was introduced to us in this book. Her name is Zikora. Very interesting character. Again, lots of lessons to be learned. Please, if you enjoyed this book review, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you don't miss out on all this juicy stuff, okay? Thank you. Thanks for watching. Bye.